Jordan, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for coming on as a guest on the Manifestor's Journey podcast. I'm very happy and excited to have you here to share your journey with our listeners. You are the prime example of what I talk about. So I cannot wait to dive deep,
Sweet.
and share your gems. We met, a little background, we met through Ivy. It was a networking, social kind of thing, right? And we connected because we have similarities with what you do and then what I have as well. So let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
So let's talk about, you have a content marketing agency, right?
Yep.
It's based out of LA, and you also have part of it in Canada, correct? A branch.
We got offices in Toronto and Vancouver.
Toronto, that's
nice.
nice.
That's actually where the company started.
Really, it started.
Yeah.
You're from Canada, correct?
I am. I'm from Vancouver originally.
Vancouver.
Went to school out in Toronto and started this thing, and now we're here.
Now, what did you go to school for?
So I went to school for political science, which I know is not related at all to content marketing or marketing in any way. But
Right. So you went to school for political science with the idea of doing what exactly?
Oh, I think every person who's in political science at some point is like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a lawyer. This is what I'm going to do. And that was the intent. And then halfway through my last year of school, I was like, I started this blog with a couple friends, and it kind of started to pick up. And then I got offers to write for
What was
Meg.
the blog about?
So the blog initially was called Cave Mag.
Oh, my goodness.
So we started this cavemag.com. It was this cave magazine, and it was essentially a men's magazine. Think like GQ, but for people under 25.
Okay.
And it was a little more realistic instead of aspirational.
Okay.
So we'd give tips, tips for style, tips for fitness, tips for dating.
So you've always been this person that loves to give, the free information, education.
Totally.
And I see you as someone who has their own network. And we can go to you for information related to marketing, but you've always done that even with other areas, right?
Yeah, not always. It started with this, and it just kind of was one of these things where I was like, I'm reading about SEO. This is in 2011, right?
This is before most
everything.
of us knew what this was.
And I'm reading about SEO, and I'm writing this content, and we're doing this, and we got this magazine, and it was crazy because we weren't making any money off this thing, but we ramped it pretty quickly with visitors. And one story in particular, this is crazy. So we had the NHL, National Hockey League. They put out this thing, particularly the Florida Panthers. They put out this thing and they said, we're giving away season tickets for $180. To put that in context for American viewers, that's an NHL team and season tickets for $180. That's if the Lakers were going to be season tickets, $180, it would be what?
Right, you would jump on that.
Yeah, so I was living in Toronto. The writer who brought it up was living in Vancouver, and I did the only rational thing a broke university student could do, and I was let's buy the tickets. We bought the tickets, and over the next 4 months, we started barraging the team with trades, this, that, whatever. Anyways, they caught wind of it via social. They flew us down.
No way.
Put us in the owner's box.
No way.
Met the owner, did full drinks, everything. We documented it all, put a story out. I go to bed on whatever. The next day I wake up and my phone has so many notifications.
No way.
And I'm like, what the hell? And it's we're on Sports Illustrated, we're on ESPN,
No.
we're at the top of Reddit. And I'm like,
Sports ESPN.
Yeah, this story went crazy.
Wow.
Local news, national news, it's just gone bananas, especially in Canada. And I'm like, okay, dope. But I don't know how that, at this point I'm just it's a cool story, and it's totally took a life of its own. And my aunt, who's in PR, comes up to me. She's like, hey, do you know what you've done? And I'm like, no, what? She's like, that coverage is worth about $250,000 to a brand.
No.
And I was like, what? You should have seen me. I'm sitting there, I'm 23 at the time, 24 years old, and I'm like, you have to be kidding me. And that's just when it clicked. I was like, oh, if you tell a story and you tell it well and you connect with people and you're real, people will gravitate towards that. And brands will pay for it too. So then that just kind of got the wheels turning of okay, we started this site, we didn't know what we were doing, we ramped it to 1 million visitors all organic, not a single dollar paid.
Wow.
Just by purely writing and like developing these stories. And I was like, okay, brands can benefit from this, you know? So then we kind of pivoted, because anyone who's in the content publishing game, I pray for you guys. It's just like, it is a game that is, it's really hard to win at right now.
There's just so many players now.
Yeah, and it's a volume game. It's, you need to have 20 posts out a day. There's so many things you need to do. So we shifted right there, and we're like, oh, people will pay us for this. And we started learning and really just dove in head first to learn everything we can about creating content for brands, and taking that storytelling component that we had learned through the magazine and dumping that talent and experience and everything into the brands we work with to help them tell their stories.
So first thing on your bio, I've already read your bio to the listeners, storyteller. So as an actor, that sticks out, you know, because we are like, we're storytellers. That's what we do. So you never think that someone who's not in this business will consider themselves a storyteller. You're like, huh? But the way you just said it, the brands and what you do with marketing is tell stories, right?
Completely. And I think, like, the way I think about brand storytelling is this, is like, I got to tell my story to you as a brand, but I got to tell it to you over and over again and in different ways so that you can understand what I'm trying to accomplish as a brand and feel connected. It's the same reason you barely see an iPhone in an Apple commercial at the Super Bowl.
Right.
They're telling you a story. Like, Mercedes,
take some points.
Mercedes, Honda, these companies,
right.
They've been telling us a story for me, they've been telling me a story for 30 years.
Right.
Why do I think Nike is cooler than Adidas?
Hey, I got some Adidas on right now.
I'm rocking Nike,
I'm
just
rocking
everything.
Adidas, all right?
But it's like,
we'll take a poll, Adidas or Nike.
But it's like, you know, I think that, like, LeBron James wearing Nike, going out doing ads is part of their story. And I'm like, oh, I like LeBron James. I mean, who doesn't? And
then
like,
you're going to buy what he says.
So I'm gravitating to that story. They tell the story of Serena Williams. I get inspired. I have an emotional response to the brand. That's part of the story, right?
Well, you know, since you brought up Nike, let's talk about what they just did with Colin. I thought it was a great marketing move. You know, I was like, wow, you just brought him in. But I was a little conflicted about them doing it, only because they work with the NFL. And I was like, are they really telling Colin's story, or is this just a marketing move? Like, what was your take on that?
My take is Nike seizes opportunity.
Right.
Nike also sponsored Tiger Woods when he came back. They also sponsored Mike Vick after he was convicted.
Right. So this is in alignment
fighting.
with how they do.
Look, Nike's in the business to make money. They are socially on the right side of things this time, and I'm all about it, and I support it.
Right.
And I'm like, hell yeah. But from a business standpoint, like, they're in it to make money. Let's not cut it to any different way. Like, Nike is not a charitable organization, right? Like,
right. This was not just a nonprofit thing.
Yeah.
So talking about the NFL, you played football.
I did.
Right? And was football, you know, we all have dreams. I mean, when I was a kid, I thought I was going to play basketball. All right? I thought I'm going to be in the WNBA. And then I got to high school, and my coach was like, you're a little short, buddy. And I was like, dreams crushed. I'm not playing basketball. Was the NFL a dream for you?
I mean, I think any kid who plays sports growing up is going to have those dreams. And I definitely had the dreams of, you know, going pro. And I think that's something that fuels your motivation, right? For a large part of your athletic career. So 100% had those dreams, though, you know, I was fortunate enough to actually play in professional, in quotes, league in Germany. Why
do you say in quotes? What does that mean?
Because, like, half the team's paid and the other half's not. And it's like, there's like, it's like semi-pro, I guess, but they pay some players. So I was lucky enough to get paid and go play football in Germany
That's
after,
amazing.
Right? But I'm not going to walk around and be like, I'm a pro football player. I think that's a little misleading. So, yeah, it was an amazing opportunity, you know. I think when I started to get to the end of my university career, college, I was like, you know, this ain't going to happen for me.
We need to touch on that, too. How did that feel? Because athletes, man, your whole life, this is what you're doing.
This is the hardest thing, is my whole life I was defined as Jordan the football player.
I can imagine
Therefore,
you
my intelligence, my character, anything creative I want to do, it's like, oh, but would a football player do that? You know, and those are thoughts that go through your own head and you internalize, right? Even though you're battling against whatever stereotype people have of you, right? Like, And that's fine. That's football players. That's one part of it, is like figuring out who you are outside of football.
Right. And that can be challenging when you guys are like wake up footballs. Like it's just football.
Oh, and the subculture is insane. The subculture of football, it like sucks you in, and that's all you think about. And I remember when I stopped playing and I came back, and a couple of my buddies were still playing, and they're like, we're sitting around and they're talking about how many times they bench 225 and how fast they can run, and I was like, whoa, the world does not care. Like,
newsflash, no one cares.
Nobody cares. Like, what are we talking about?
But you know, the whole culture with football. You
crazy.
guys are. I played tennis in college, D3, but whatever. So it was nice. You know, I got to miss class when I had a game. I was treated differently, like this red carpet, and it was D3 tennis. I didn't win a match, you know, but you guys get treated like royalty. And I can imagine you get used to that kind of treatment. It becomes a part of your identity, like everything that you get with football, you know?
Yeah, and I think with sport, like, you can take what you want from it. For me, like, looking back on it, I think football, like, I think a large part of who I am today was made from the football field.
Right.
So I'm never going to knock it, you know, in that sense. I think it's, like, the things around teamwork, hard work, like
discipline,
having the fact that you essentially have a full-time job while going to school that you're not really getting paid for.
Right.
And it's like, okay. And then,
out of pure love.
Yeah, you're waking up at 5 a.m. Like, you're a university student, college student, waking up at 5 a.m. every day to go train. Like, other kids aren't doing that. And it's, yeah, I think it teaches you a lot around structure and hard work.
Right, that now you use for your business.
Completely.
So let's start with the journey of Cave Social, 2012. Was this after the story, or was this some time after that story became viral?
Yeah, it was probably like, I would say like 3 to 4 months after the story.
Wow, that is insane. It's close to it.
Well, it's just that realization. And what we had is we had somebody reach out to us who was like, hey, I saw that story you did. And it was a family friend of mine. It was like extended family friend who owned a moving company. He's like, hey, I saw that story. Would you be able to like help us out with our website? And I had just started like reading some books on what content marketing is and stuff. And I was like, oh, we can win at this thing called SEO. And I also, this was something that I was learning about, this content marketing and SEO. And I was like, oh, how do I make an impact in the corporate world? In a way, like, where's my advantage? I'm like, if I enter corporate America in a traditional job, I'm 24, the 55-year-old guy or lady has the advantage over me.
Right. 100%.
So where do I have the advantage? It's on the internet. I've been on the internet longer than a 55-year-old dude.
Right.
So I was like, okay. And then we had this company approach us, and I was like, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's figure it out. And we just committed to learning all we could about SEO, creating content. And this moving company, you know, that's supposed to be a boring company, has still with us today. They've grown 30% like year over year.
Wow.
And because we tapped into something, and we told it to the owner, and he bought in, and I give him all the credit in the world. We said, look, like, your product is something that transports people to what they want, right? Nobody likes moving.
No.
But they love dreaming about their new life on the other side of the move. They love the new house. They love the idea of moving in with a significant other, maybe sending the kids to college,
the new
retiring.
Start.
Exactly. So let's sell that. Let's talk about what are the best schools, what are the best neighborhoods to live in, etc. And that's going to attract people in, and it has. And it's just been something that we look at with brands over and over again, like United Airlines or Southwest Airlines or whatever. They're not selling a flight. They're selling the trip, the destination that you're going to.
Always.
They're just utility for that, right?
Right. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know this, but I have my agency as well. And it's so humbling when you get that first client that says, you know what, I like your ideas, let's give it a shot. And then they stay with you.
Totally.
It's like the most gratifying feeling. And it's about telling the story, you know? And so how, like, did your clients just start coming, or did you guys like go out and get them? How did that work?
Initially, it was referral based, a lot of it. And I would say that, you know, this was us just kind of starting to understand how to work with clients in this way, and things around billing and, you know,
all the stuff we're going to get into for entrepreneurs, because there's a whole thing we have to talk about. But I'll let you finish that.
And then I would say in like 2013, we decided we were going to move down to the States and open in America. And we had a client down there. And then my co-founder on the American side, Justin Kerby, he was living in the States, and one of my buddies, and he's like, we can do this, we can do this in Florida, we can do this. I was like, okay, so at this point we still were largely referral, but then we just took a second, we're like, no marketing agencies promote themselves.
None.
So we're like, what? You're saying how good you are at marketing and you don't do it yourself? So we started a YouTube show. We started a podcast. We started everything. And it's like that. We said we have to be our own client,
right,
and take all these tactics that we're out there preaching
and do it for ourselves.
And do it ourselves. Yeah. Because otherwise, like, do we really believe what we're saying, and do our actions match what we're talking about?
Right.
Because so many people talk this, we market this, we do that, we have a system, we A/B test, like, and it's like they don't.
Explain A/B test.
So A/B test, really simple, is you create two versions of something. It could be an ad, it could be a website. You send 50% of the traffic to one, 50% of the traffic to the other one. Whatever one converts or sells more, you say, great, that's our now key page we're going to use. So you might start with like 100 people, send 50 here, 50 there before you release it. Yeah.
Side note, you have up on Cave Social, right?
Yep.
You're going to be giving a lot of educational videos for marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we have a YouTube show right now that you can go and get all marketing tips for.
Right.
It's called In the Cave.
In the Cave, for anyone, because that's extremely important. We're talking about your journey today, but you're so kind that you give this information out for free.
Yep. We're not selling anything actually on it. Right. It's just go totally free. So.
Right. So if anyone's interested, definitely check that out and get some info on there. So let's talk about something that's a very juicy topic.
Okay. I'm listening.
What do you think that is?
A juicy topic.
Entrepreneurship.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really nice, to talk about your business and how great it is. But I feel like there's a narrative going on right now that is not realistic about entrepreneurship, which is one of two things. One, you just get on and everything's great. You just start getting these clients if you just work hard, just put in all the work. Two, you have all this free time. In the beginning, I feel when I started my agency, I had zero free time because you're learning and working at the same exact time. And the other thing is, hard work doesn't always give you the return you think it's going to give you.
Right.
Right? So touch on those two things and tell me your thoughts.
Well, I think the hard work side of things, like, look, I look at entrepreneurship like this. It's really a scale between practicality and passion, right? And if you're not doing something you're passionate about, like, yeah, you're not going to want to do it very long, right? So practicality would be things like the revenue generating activities, things that bring you money, pay bills. That's the practical side of things. Now, as your business grows, you can do a little more passion and a little less practical, right? But it's like if you're 100% only doing stuff you're passionate about, but it's not covering the bills, like for me, right, doing the magazine, that was 100% passion, not practical. Okay, I got to adjust my scale, right? And I think that it's important people know that, like, entrepreneurship right now, it's sexy and everybody's talking about it.
Oh, it's so sexy.
And it's like the cool thing to do.
Right. It doesn't look like that all the time,
it's
though.
Not, though. That's like, it's like people see this, right? And they're like, oh, you guys are out there doing podcasts. It's like, yeah, there's another 8 hours around this of, like, work, right? Now, that being said, I think you have to... Actually, I'm going to rewind. I'll just back it up. There's a difference between being a freelancer or self-employed and being an entrepreneur.
Right.
So
that's really important.
Self-employed means you are an employee, and that means when you need to work to generate cash, right? If you're self-employed or if you're a freelancer and you take time away from your business, does it generate money for you? If it doesn't, to me, you're not an entrepreneur. You haven't become your own boss. You've become your own employee. So that's okay. And that's where we all start. Right. You're 100. When you start, you're 100%.
Oh my goodness, you're everything.
You're everything. You're the accountant,
I became a graphic
lawyer,
designer, a biller, contracts. I did everything. I was like, this is not like fun.
No, and I was talking with this guy. He runs a real estate company. His name's Kevin Kaufman, and he was like, look, being an entrepreneur is about falling in love with the boring.
You've said so many quotable moments already.
Well, I just love that because like it is boring 99% of the time. It's literally work. And
even creating content. Like you said, this is the fun part, guys, but there is a lot of stuff that happens before and after.
Oh, and you have to commit to doing that. I see a lot of advice that's like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I just don't like, okay, all the power to you, but doing is better than dreaming for me. Mm-hmm. And the way I look at it is like, have a dream, right? Let's have this entrepreneurship. I want to build a company, but what are we doing to actively step towards it?
100%.
Like, I can't bake a cake if I don't go out and get the ingredients, mix them together, and then put it in the oven. Yeah. I don't know what that cake's going to look like, right? But it's like, I can't even begin unless I get the ingredients.
Right.
So for entrepreneurship and starting a business, there are ingredients. Are you licensed?
Mm-hmm.
Do you... are you licensed? Do you have the business set up? Are you controlling what you can control? Mm-hmm. The phone calls, the sales opportunities. Are you going to the networking events?
Right.
Are you looking at your process? Saying, I want an agency with 10 people is one thing, but it's like, that's the output, and you can't really control.
That's the outcome, right? Like that's the final destination of this journey that I want these 10 people.
But you can't control as much as you can control what you put in. The output, you don't really know. But you can control what you put in. So I know, okay, if I get up and go to work for 8 hours a day and do the little thing, if I write one blog post a week for a year, by the end of the year I have 52 blogs. Right.
See, in my book, I'm in the self-help area, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what this podcast is too. But I'm a practical person. Like, I went to school for 9 years, 3 degrees, right? I didn't do that by wishing I did that. Like you said, I was like, all right, time to apply this time, and time to do this, and time to do that. And you set up the action plans, and you take those steps, with the outcome in mind, but you're taking the steps, and that's the same for entrepreneurship.
Yeah, you're not going to climb a mountain in one day, right? You have to take getting to the top of a mountain starts with right, left, towards it, Mm-hmm. That being said, you also have to walk towards the mountain. Right. And I think that's like, for me, what it comes down to is like, I have these dreams, but I also have to have action to back it up. Mm-hmm. And to the second part of it, so one, that's the first part, which is like, we got to take steps towards our goals, of course. But the narrative out there right now, which is entrepreneurs wearing T-shirts that say hustle across it.
It's so bad.
Like,
honestly.
Remove hustle and remove the word like grind from your vocabulary.
It just puts you in that energy space that you need to like kill yourself basically to be successful. And for me, it's about working smart.
And just like, I think setting reasonable expectation, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think the narrative that's out there is, you can conquer the world in a night, and 6 months you'll be some like tech all-star person, right? And it's like, no, things take time. Twitter took 11 years. Mm-hmm. I was sitting with one of the executives we work with, and he's like, it's not really that hard. Put in a reasonable amount of work over a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
And I was like, all right, yeah, like I can. He's like, you have to, like, at the end of the day, there are things that are work needs to be part of your life, not all of your life.
Right.
And it needs to help elevate those other parts of your life.
That's nice hearing that from a male perspective, though, because I feel that you guys have even more pressure to feel that work has to be everything that you do.
It's ultra competitive.
Right. It's just, as a man, that's all. As women, we have the flexibility to say we can, be moms and stuff, but I feel like men have this pressure that
it's a mask we wear.
Right.
It's a complete mask around like masculinity and what I need to be a provider, and money and success. Money right now is the metric that we all grade against success. We don't grade quality of friendships, quality of life, like mental health, just physical health. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's been in one of those environments or times when you're working 12 hours a day, like your physical health, you get like anxiety, you're not sleeping right, all those things that start to pile on, and sick, and
not happy, not in a good mood, everything's like,
it piles on, and it's like, you're not going to do great work when your body's in that state. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I can do meaningful work in 40 hours a week.
Right.
And anyone who's out there like, I work 120 hours a week, no, you don't. Being on your phone on the weekend is not working. Like,
right.
Let's pump the brakes.
Let's talk about that. In my book, I talk a lot about self-care.
Okay.
Right? And I feel like as women, we have a lot of voices on self-care. A lot. Taking care of yourself. I saw two things. I saw that you were running like 300 miles this year.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I was so motivated by that. And then I was like, I can't do that. I would love to join you, but I'm like, 300 miles. You got to be really disciplined to set out and like do that goal and accomplish it, you know?
It was a New Year's resolution. And one of the problems I have with New Year's resolutions is people say all this stuff and it's not realistic. Like, I'm not going to have pop all year. Like, yeah, okay. You're not going to have one, like, sip of soda all year. Like,
Right.
let's come back down to reality here.
Let's tone it down.
Yeah. And then, like, so I was like, okay, what can I do? Well, I hate running. I absolutely hate it. But I love doing something that makes me better that I don't like.
You
So
have so
I
many
love
quotable
the
moments. I
end
see
of the
that.
run. Yeah, the end of the run when I'm like,
Right.
I really didn't like that, but I am better for it.
What mile are you on now?
250, 240.
Oh my goodness.
But you break it down, it's 25 miles a month. And the main reason I do this, so I put my goals out every single year. And then the next year I post, what did I do? What do I need to do? So 2 years ago, I was like, I want to speak in front of 1,000 people and be a contributor on Inc. Okay.
Check.
Spoke in front of 1,500 and I got my own column on Inc.
Nice.
And then it's like, oh, that was attainable. I just had to write posts every week and submit them.
Right.
You know, don't write one blog post, submit it to Inc. and think that I'm going to get a column. It's like, no, submit. Same with running. I'm not going to run 300 miles in a week.
No,
right?
that's
So it's
not
like-
that's not realistic at all.
No, it's like,
Right.
it's 7 a week. If I do 6 to 7 miles a week, that's not crazy.
Right.
20 minutes every 2 days.
But have
Like,
you felt along the journey of that you've been like, I'm just gonna drop this goal. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have had times where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a little behind.
Right.
But dropping it, no, because I put it out in the world and now I feel like I have to be accountable. And there's so many people coming up to me like, 300, what are you at? And if
I'm following you. I'm like,
Yeah.
where is he now? Like when you put, I just see these numbers. I'm like, 200. What?
see, but you know, we're approaching November, right? And it's like, if I'm sitting there in November and I'm like, or the end of the year comes around and I go, oh yeah, I did 221 miles. Like, that's me deciding to quit.
Right.
Like, discipline. Jocko Willenick is this guy. He's got this book. He's an old Navy SEAL commander. And he's got this saying. It's like, discipline equals freedom. So when my alarm goes off at 5 in the morning, or this morning a little earlier, to go to the gym, I have that mantra in my head that's like, discipline equals freedom. Like, I don't want to get out of bed at 5 a.m., but I turn the light on and go.
Go. So what is like a routine that you have? Do you meditate? Do you, I meditate and every day I write down at least 10 things I'm grateful for. And then I do some affirmations and do a little stretch or something physical to like get in the flow of that.
Yeah. So I've been thinking a lot about this and like morning routines and finding the perfect routine and all of this. And I think that the narrative around this is a little messed up too. So my most successful posts on Inc. were about, here's a morning routine to crush it. But here's the reality. I don't do that every day.
Right.
Like, some days I look at my phone for 20 minutes and then I fall back asleep and that's okay. I'm not going to be this, you know, Captain America figure that I want to be, you know, in my own head at that time every single day. So like, yes, I meditate. Do I do it every day? No, I try. Do I work out? I try to every day. But there are days when I'm like tired.
Right. And
Or-
it's okay to take that day and say, not today.
Or I like, look, Netflix makes an amazing content. This whole like, put down Netflix and work on your dream. Okay, sure. But there are certain times like you just can't, like, you're done with work for the day.
I agree. And especially being an entrepreneur and when you're running things, at some point your brain is like, shut it off. Just stop with all of this stuff. And you need that break. And that could be through Netflix or reality TV. That's my guilty pleasure.
And I think that stuff is like, I think that stuff is just like been labeled so like, oh, you're a failure if you do that in the morning.
Right.
Or like a 9 to 5 is somehow a prison sentence. No, like I have friends who have 9 to 5s. They love it. There's security that comes around with that. They get off at 5. They don't have to think about it. Their paycheck comes every 2 weeks.
I would say that's easier sometimes, you know, because like you said, you turn it off. You know, we don't really get to turn it off.
Well, it's
100%.
Entrepreneurship is unlimited freedom with also being infinitely imprisoned by your business. Like,
yes.
Like, I took a conference call in Thailand at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the game. But I can also go to Thailand. Like, I'm like, oh, I wanted to do this trip around Asia. Great. I don't have to like go to a boss and schedule my vacation.
Right, like can I take time off?
Yeah. So
I saw you just did a trip. Where did you go?
I was in
Ecuador, was it?
Colombia and Ecuador.
Colombia. How was that?
I love South America.
Yeah, I haven't been. It's on my list.
Yeah, it was great, and it was 2 weeks, and it was a good. That's part of our company culture. Everyone in our team travels.
Nice.
And I think going out and seeing other cultures and just seeing how other people live really does help us understand storytelling at a global scale, not just this American.
Right, and it helps you become a better storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the audience a few questions before bringing you on, and we have a question from Robinson. He's from New York, and he's asking, tell us the difference between marketing before social media and after. Like, I've noticed social media has become like this thing where everyone is like, this is really, really important. What do you think the shift has been with that?
I mean, before and after, it's just a different medium. Like, there's this idea of like content marketing, like what was before contentless marketing. Like, it's always been content.
There was no content.
It's always been attention. Yeah, like I sat down every day after school when I was growing up and watched TV. I watched Friends twice and The Simpsons twice and Seinfeld. I was 12. Like, that's where you were going to hit me with the message.
I guess growing, like, you didn't know that that's what was happening per se. But we were being hit with the messages as we were watching our shows.
Do you think people know what's happening when they're scrolling through here?
I don't think they do.
They don't know. So how it's changed, I think the medium's changed. I think accessibility
accessibility is a big one to
the content, and then also accessibility to create and connect with people. It's the easiest it's ever been from a cost standpoint, and it's the hardest it's ever been from a competition standpoint, because you're competing with everyone who's got a phone for attention. But all you need is a phone to compete.
Right.
So it's leveled the playing fields. Like, we can compete with big agencies because we can be nifty. We both have Facebook business pages. Like, all right, go. Who's going to do it better?
Right.
So I think that the biggest difference now is that, accessibility to tech.
Right.
Like, that's the huge part.
I like that. It puts us all on the same, like, now we can all compete with each other. And you see a lot of people that aren't paying for things, and organically they become big hits. So it puts us on an even playing field that we all have Instagram, we all have Facebook, we can all get on there and tell our stories and do what we need to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't want to discount paid amplification on those channels.
No, I think that's great.
But it's
invest in yourself, even if you're a small business. Invest and market yourself there.
100%. I say this, like, so I'll write these blogs, right? And I tell people all the time, like, I'll have a blog and I show them example analytics, and it's like 68 people, read this blog, and I'm like, who thinks that's small? And everybody in the crowd will be like, oh, that's small. And I'm like, it is crazy that 68 people stop their day to read what I have to say.
Right.
If it was 68 people at an auditorium and I could get up on stage, would that be a good opportunity? Everyone's like, yeah, that would be. I'm like, so don't discount that, because
it's a different perspective to look at the numbers that way.
This article that I'm talking about, 68 people saw it. Yeah, one of those 68 was the CEO of Sprint.
Thank you.
And then he shared it.
Right.
And tagged me on his LinkedIn, and I was like sitting there and I was like, you never know who's watching. And if you put stuff out and you just do it consistently, you're gonna get hits and you're gonna get some duds. But this is part of the game.
Right. Awesome. So we have one more question from Frank from New York. And what would be your advice to a person who wanted to follow in your footsteps?
Breathe. Take a deep breath. You have to just take a step and say, okay, this is going to take time. We're at a point, like, we're 7 full-time employees right now, and it's taken us 6 years to do it. So people can see right now and be like, oh, that's cool, right? Like, we're not massive. We're not that big, and it's taken time. So I would just say breathe. Like, whatever expectation you have over the next 3 months, just take a deep breath. It's going to take time. That's the biggest thing. And kind of piggybacking off that is just do, like, I hate, like, cliches, but, like, do the little things. Like, literally do that monotonous stuff, the falling in love with boring, the, like, just if you worry about that and do that right every day enough times, things will come together and you'll look back. Like, if you look back and you look back at the last year or last 5 years, right? People often, and I'm quoting my friend on this one, Brandon Rinka, but people often overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5. So like your goal is just like, okay, you don't, like if you're in this game for life, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to build this business for life,
Right.
like think in a 20-year mindset. How is this action I take going to affect me
in 20 years?
in 20 years?
You know, as actors, that's my mentality, because you want a lot of, I'm year 2, I should be on television. Sometimes it takes 7 years before you get on television. And if you're looking at it short term versus I'm in this game for the long run, it can be so stressful.
And what's your motivation? Is it to be on television or is it to tell great stories?
Right. You know, and that is all about perspective.
Yep.
You know, being on television is a medium to tell your story. You know, I'm using this, like, you know, we're still telling the story. You know what I mean? So 3 questions that I ask my guests. Number 1, do you have any regrets with your career, decisions you've made, or
regrets? You know, I think the regrets that I have would be let go of control sooner on things. And that's one where just like if I could have handed off control and like realizing that people within my company are better at certain parts of running it than I am, like, and I need to enable them. I don't think there's any like, you know, steadfast, like I regret this exact action. It's more like, I just wish I did that sooner. Like,
you wish you would have learned that lesson sooner.
Yeah, just like put the trust in people, you know, and like let them, like people are smart. People are smarter than we all think. And we all think that we're the smartest person, or we all think that like, you know, we're like every person wakes up wanting, I believe, you know, wanting to do a good job and wanting to be positive and all that stuff. Enable them to do that. So that would be my regret. It's just like, you know, trusting people sooner and still working on it now, I think.
Nice. Question number 2, what is one thing that you're grateful for? And that doesn't negate everything else, but what's one thing you today you're like, yes, I'm so happy this is happening, or that I have this?
One thing, I mean, the people in my life, honestly. So I do an exercise where like every day, once again, like most days.
Loosely, you know, because some days you wake up and, you got to go.
I'm
like,
late or
you know?
whatever, flight. Is I try to pick one thing that I'm grateful for, and it could be the sunshine, it could be my sister, it could be the business, and like I try to get like borderline emotional about how grateful I get about it, and I think it puts me in a good spot for myself for the day. So what I'm grateful about for me, like my mission, and I've did some soul searching to figure out like why I'm here, and for me it's to really enable people to do their best work and to enable creators. So I'm just grateful that I'm able to do that with 7 people now. And if I can do that with 10, 70, 700, I'll be infinitely grateful for that.
For that opportunity to do that. So, you know, I forget who I heard this from, but she said, you should wake up every day saying, I get to do this, versus I have to run here and there. I get to go to this place and have this meeting, or I get to go to this audition, or I get to tell this story.
It's a 2 millimeter shift in perspective. It changes stress levels, everything. Like, who's listening to this right now or watching this, and you're tense in your arms, shoulders, or jaw. And it's like, whoa.
Scan your body, breathe, like you said, breathe.
Things are actually pretty good. You know?
Right. And my last question is, if this was your last recording, I know it sounds like, oh my God.
Hey, mortality is real.
That's a whole other conversation, but I literally live by that every day. And not in a sad way, just like, if I'm gone tomorrow, like, what did I do with my day today?
You have time to, there's X amount of time to make X amount of, Y amount of impact. Like,
right. What would you want to be known for?
If I were to, let's just, what do I want to be known for? That's a good question. I think I would just want to be known for being kind, you know, and I kindness and being like a pushover is not synonymous, just like, for being kind and doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing. That would be what I'd want, you know.
You would want people to remember you for that.
Yeah, and for telling the odd joke here or there, but that would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I want to tell my listeners, where can we find your stuff, like social media, website, and all that good stuff?
No, thank you for having me. If you guys want, head over to cavesocial.com. We have
Show us your phone.
we have our podcast link there, our YouTube show. We got a ton of blogs. If you're interested on like business or marketing, we got a lot of content there. And then if you want to hook up with me, Twitter, I'm pretty active on there, and that's at CaveJordanS.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for listening, and always remember to choose gratitude over fear. Bye.